Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive, this is Trap or Dive.
Here we go. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I got the wrong thing up. What's going on with y'all, man? Good morning. Welcome into the Washington Commanders morning show. I am your host, Molly Mo. You know what time it is, man. Let's get the administrative item out of the way right quick. If you are new to the Trap or Dive podcast, if you are new to the Trap or Dive YouTube channel, Twitch, all that good stuff, man, make sure you are following. Make sure you are subscribed. Let me turn this down 1 second. Boom. It helps the show's growth. You know, it's truly appreciated. If you all missed last show, I will put out the interview with Tony Wiggins as a solo this week. But excellent conversation between the Trap or Dive fellas, AJ Dre and myself with Tony. He covers the he covers the Jaguars for the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Jaguars and things like that. So definitely appreciate Tony coming through, man. And it's some good perspective because it kind of gives us an insight on how other organizations who aren't doing too well from a win-loss standpoint, how their business is ran and things like that. So I think that one was really good. Another thing too, I was a little frustrated. You know what's crazy? Last stream, because you know I've been gone for I missed like 2 Friday, Monday, and then I did the stream on Wednesday, right? Let me change the band on my bed. I did the stream on Wednesday, and my audio was messed up. And I pray to God my audio ain't messed up right now. But my audio was messed up, and I didn't know what any of y'all was talking about when when y'all initially told me how bad it was. But when I played it back, that shit was terrible. So unfortunately, I had to delete that one because I wouldn't even want to put anybody through that, listening to that on the playback or anything. And shout out to everybody who stayed with the show during the entire stream, because some people told me that they did, and oh my God, it was terrible. It was terrible audio wise. But anyway, I'm gonna open up the show to everybody right now. I know it's early, so maybe you all don't got nothing to say just yet. But I'm gonna open up the show to everybody. I don't have it in the show description, so I'll send the link out right now to Twitch and to YouTube for anybody that wants to join anything on their mind Commanders related. I know that there was an issue late last night with a reporter. Actually, I don't even know this guy, I ain't gonna lie to you, but I did quote him in the All 32 podcast because it had just popped up. But very interesting conversation surrounding Chase Young. For those who missed it, let me pull up the guy. What's his name? My man Rich. What's going on, big dog? How you feeling, man? What is his name, so I can pull it up, because that one was quite, here it is. Mike Jurecki. Mike Jurecki, his bio says he's covered the NFL / Cardinals going on 28 years. So he has some validity and credence in the NFL. I probably used credence wrong. But he has some type of reputation in the NFL. Look, Adam Schefter follows him. Nikki Javala of the Washington Post, Mark Schofield as well. They all follow him. And I say all that to say, like, you know, legitimate verified reporters and journalists, they don't want to follow, you know, somebody they don't trust in terms of like reporting and things like that. So Yeah, they follow him, and the report that came out last night from him, and he deleted one tweet, but he kept one up, and he said, Commanders edge rusher Chase Young went to Von Miller's pass rushing camp and re-aggravated his injury. Sources tell me the club is not very happy. He went outside the facility to work out. And then JP Finley of NBC Sports Watch, we all know JP, said that Chase Young has been with the Commanders since camp opened in late July. Sources tell me no setbacks. He's just working from the knee injury last November. It was interesting to see it. He said he just want to see his win, and concerned about Cam. I am too about Cam Curl, and I'm gonna get on that because I want to touch on. Look, I'm freestyling today. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I've been pretty busy since I came back from Puerto Rico. And on top of that, I probably gotta get out of here a little early as well because I got an interview to prepare for. But while we are here, I think that the Chase Young news was quite interesting. That happened like around 9 o'clock at night last night, and has been shut down by a couple of people, including Jordan Schultz, who is not a local reporter, and said that actually Chase Young may be ready as early as week 5. So for all of the information that we were talking yesterday on the Trapper Die podcast, saying, or for me saying that Chase Young may not even be ready till like October/November type. That man may be ready. What is it? The Titans game? Same time as Brian Robinson's projected to come off his list. Yeah, the Titans game. So October 10th or October 9th is like where he can possibly come back. So, we'll see, man. If he can come back week 5, do you know how much of a boost that'll be for everybody? Washington from the fan standpoint, Washington from a team standpoint. Washington can use that energy from Chase Young. What's going on, Mike? Washington can use that energy from Chase Young. So seeing that he can possibly be ready as early as week 5 is very encouraging, and something that hasn't really been spoken about because we've all seen or heard about, the pup injury and the significance of his knee injury. I think he tore his ACL, and I think he tore his patella tendon as well. And they're saying how uncommon of an injury that is. I mean, when it does happen, like the recovery time in which it takes. So I'm very interested in seeing Chase Young's return and if he can come back week 5. Defensively, Cam Curl is like, I haven't done too much. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because today, Rich mentioned that he's a little concerned about Cam Curl. They're going to get an update because of the protocols. They'll get an update on Cam Curl's injury status today during Rivera's presser later in the day, and we'll know a little bit more about his injury status and if he's able to play. I understand that the cast or whatever bandage that he was practicing with yesterday, what's today? No, Monday, that he was practicing with on Monday, it wasn't like it wouldn't have gotten in the way of him playing in an NFL game. He said it's all about the incision healing and things like that. So if his incision can heal properly, then that's probably where things can turn around for Cam and being able to play week 1. But yeah, like I said, we'll get an update on that. But ultimately, we got to think about, if we're going to talk about Cam Curl, who can possibly be his replacement. Because what Cam Curl did, man, he did a lot for this defense, right? From a coverage standpoint, and even still from like a Buffalo nickel standpoint, Cam Curl played in the box. When they implemented the 3 safety look, Derek Forrest played up top as a strong safety, as a 2 high guy or somebody who can come down in the hook area and cover. But if Cam Curl is gone, who's going to fit that Buffalo nickel role? Or are they going to go like traditional nickel with 3 cornerbacks and 2 linebackers? How are they going to play this role? And obviously that third DB would be, or third cornerback would be Benjamin St-Juste in a traditional nickel role. But how are they going to play it, right? It's going to be interesting And I think they'll have a variety of looks that they can implement. But I think ultimately Percy Butler and Derek Forrest may get more time than we would have anticipated early on in the season. I don't know how you all feel about Percy Butler, but I am a fan. But this like these bullets is real now. I'm all for Percy Butler getting all the experience in the world and playing time in preseason. And I think that Percy Butler can ultimately be a really good post safety, a really good single high safety. He has the speed. He has the makeup. He can cover that grass, right? But when the bullets are real, I need him to play a little bit faster from a processing standpoint. Not necessarily from like he's a fast player, but if he plays a little bit faster mentally, I think there's a gap that he has to close first and foremost. But if he can play a little bit faster, that'll make me a little bit more confident in him. And I don't think that's going to happen week 1. But with Cam Curl being hurt, now you have to kind of maneuver a little bit. Like, how are you going to play it? Because are you going to keep Percy Butler on special teams and use Jeremy Reeves and maneuver like Bobby McCain around? Like, there's a ton of things in which you can kind of probably see playing out. Like, there's a ton of avenues that they can go, and that secondary is going to be interesting because Cam Curl may be gone. Now again, he may play, but like, how do you maneuver? Are you going to, like I said, traditional nickel? Are you going to use Jeremy Reeves or Percy Butler? Are you going to use Derek Forrest in the box as that Buffalo nickel and put Percy up high? How are these things going to work out? Mike said, I hope we can see Del Rio do better with his play calls now that he has a better mic at backer. Not saying we're better at the position, but he'll be able to put our guys where they should. Del Rio got to stop soft coverages on third down, but also got to get his act together this season no matter what. I mean, that's a good point. And something that we've talked about all the time with Del Rio and this season altogether, because, like, put it this way, yesterday, and I'm sure if you all listen to the podcast, I probably wasn't too clear in what I was trying to get across with my best case, worst case scenario. So I think this is a good time to rehash it. If you missed it yesterday on the podcast, we did our best case, worst case scenarios, and my best case was 11 wins. Worst case was 7. Like, that's my ceiling and my floor for these guys. Personally, like, that's me speaking objectively. Personally speaking, if I was to give my prediction, I can see 9 or 10 wins. But if everything hits on all cylinders for this team, they can probably get 11. It's hard to say that E word, 11, because, you know, it hasn't happened here in a long time. And that's what makes it hard for Washington to get accomplished. But ultimately, that floor, if things get worse than 7 wins, which is possible, but there's a few things that have to go wrong. And I don't think everything that has to go wrong for them to to win less than 7 games, I don't think that'll happen this year. I think it will be too much. Like, for example, and I'm gonna get to the Del Rio point because this is where I'm heading to, Mike. For example, I think that the defense would have to continue its issues from last year. Like, you can improve like incrementally. Like, what they were last year, Washington was the 25th ranked defense in points, 22nd in yards, right? And you can become like the 17th or 18th ranked defense. But ultimately, if you aren't creating turnovers, if you aren't creating the pressure that you need, while not giving up too much yards, you're not giving that many opportunities back to your offense. And again, third down defense, if you can get much better than goddamn 31st, right? Like, you can't go nowhere but up. But if you're like 25th, 26th, maybe even still bottom 12, then that's a problem as well. But to the point, that has to happen. Like, the defense has a small incremental improvement, but it's not enough. And then secondly, offensively, you're looking at a team where you have all these pieces on the offense, and you just can't mesh well with everything that you want to get done from a coordinator standpoint and the players executing that. Obviously, that has a lot to do with Carson Wentz as well. So worst case scenario, you're talking about less than 7 wins. That's how it happens. Like, not forcing turnovers, small incremental improvement on defense, but still not enough. And then your offense really not gelling at all. And I think, again, like I said, it's going to take a lot for all of that to happen. And it's going to take much more of a nuanced issue. Like, why isn't things clicking? But from a macro standpoint, that'll have to happen. And to Del Rio's point, if these issues happen and it show itself throughout the entire season, and you're talking about a team who's off to like a 1-3 start, or maybe 2-2, but on the rocks, like they haven't really been consistent throughout these games, and or something like that, then or even 0-4, like that's a disaster, right? 0-4 and 1-3 are disasters with the schedule that they have. Then you're talking about Jack Del Rio probably being the first to go. And while it's not going to happen like in the first quarter of the season, that bye week in week 14, that's going to be the time where you're like, all right, I got to make that move. And if I don't make that move, the season is probably already over. Like there's no saving the season. So that's probably where you're like, all right, I'm going to evaluate enter next coach. And I'll give him 3 games to see if he's worth keeping around. But if they're in the mix and they're still struggling, if they're in the playoff mix till the very end, like month of December, maybe late November, Del Rio's sticking around. And while the record may not be pretty, you'll see Jack Del Rio for the entire season, and then you'll be wondering what is going on for the future of this team. Can these players get things together? Can they do enough just to get us to that playoff pushing and keep things moving? What's going on, Hawk? How you feeling? Appreciate everybody that's checking in this morning. Welcome in, man. Hope everybody had a good weekend too. I know today's Wednesday, but we haven't spoken in a week. We haven't spoken in a week. So I hope everybody's doing all right. But yeah, man, Del Rio, where we at? The play calling as well. Like I said, I do. So me personally, like I said, I'm talking about like potential problems. And I think that's important when you have so many question marks. Like you can't avoid the negative concerns. You can't avoid that. But ultimately, I do think that personally, I think the defense will be better than they had last year. And I think you're looking at maybe even I hate to say it like this, but like top 18. And I think, wow, that's still like around middle of the pack. I think that's much better than where you were. And I think the offense, who has struggled the last 2 years, if you can get anything, like there is nothing wrong with the middle of the pack defense. I mean, yeah, middle of the pack defense. But you're talking about an offense who was 21st in 2021 in yards, and then 30th in 2020 in yards. Like if you can get top 15 production from an offense, I'm content with at least talking about a top 18 defense being able to, especially if you're creating turnovers, right? Like that's the most important thing. Washington has to create turnovers, and they can't go another 17 game season where they have 7 games without a turnover. You have to have more of a presence defensively in these games. And I'm not sitting here saying you have to have 50 takeaways. That would be nice, right? But if you can get at least, or average at least 1 a game, or at least look on the schedule and have at least 1 a game, then obviously the multiple here and there. But if you can have at least 1 a game, bruh, then I'm talking about like that is what success is like. I can live with a top 18 defense if you're creating turnovers and you're creating additional opportunities for your offense on a consistent basis. And then it comes down to an offense not ending up 30th in yards, not ending up bottom 12 in the NFL in points per game, You're talking about an offense who can actually move the ball and get in the end zone. That's what success looks like. And ultimately, when you have a defense that's 18th or something, you're probably looking at the best case scenario. You're looking at a 10-win, 11-win team. So play calling, like I said, I do think the defense is going to get better. I do think they have some pieces in place. I always talk about Phidarian Mathis. I would never stop talking about Phidarian Mathis. I think that he's going to be a key contributor in the run game and run defense, especially in the A gaps and B gaps. I think that he'll be really good in the interior. And it'll ultimately come down to Jamin and Cole to really see things through from a second level perspective, making plays and being physical at the point of attack. Because if they can't do that, then we're talking about a team who, while they're facing a lot of good run offenses, you're probably going to have some long days on Sundays if that box play, that trench play, interior play isn't really where it's supposed to be. We got to have a linebacker to expound the mobile quarterbacks because they kill us every time. That's going to be a good conversation for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, that's not even the coordinator thing. That's the wild part. That has happened with like, think about it. That's happened since like the Greg Bloch days. Like, think about how far that was. That's over a decade, shawty. That's over a decade, shawty. Okay, our host is looking like a re-up. Oh Lord Jesus. Hey man, appreciate you checking in, Hawk, bro. Hawk always bring the energy, bro. I told you, man. Look, that rap career that you talked about, you know what I'm saying? That brings that creative juice, man. I like that. No. So let me be clear. Not 17 games since we caused a turnover. In a 17-game season, I'm speaking on last year, there were 7 games out of that 17-game season in which the defense did not cause a turnover. So essentially where I was getting at is that, while you're getting turnovers in bunches in certain games, you're not necessarily getting the consistency of turnovers on a week-to-week basis, leaving the offense to kind of fend for themselves and have to go 80 yards a drive or 90 yards a drive consistently, and they weren't capable of doing that. So that's why I was saying, like, the offense, they need some help too. So no, they didn't. It hasn't been 17 games since a turnover was caused. It was 17-game season in which they only forced turnovers in 10 of them. Okay. But yeah, I appreciate that, big dog. Okay. Do you think Brian Robinson will be back by the 4th or maybe the 8th week at most? Hey, bro, fingers crossed. I hope he's back week 5. I hope he is back week 5. But you never know. Like, we can't project and predict what a gunshot wound would do to him. I think the most important thing is that he will be able to play. And admittedly, right, I am frustrated in the fact that he won't be available the first 4 weeks. Because of, what happened to him, and you can't prevent that. It is what it is. In terms of, you can't predict it. Excuse me. It is what it is. But I'm frustrated because I don't know what they're going to do with Antonio Gibson. I don't know what they're going to do with all 3 running backs. And I'll continue to say this. I know people disagree with me, and that's fine. Everybody ain't going to agree with everything. I like Antonio Gibson's talent. I like him as a runner. Let me be clear. I like him as a runner in open space. I don't think that he is that home run hitter that everybody talks about. Like, he hasn't shown that. He's shown it one time, and the one time he did it, guess what? It wasn't as a ball carrier. He took a screen pass from the open field to the house. But he hasn't shown that consistency from a running back standpoint, from a ball carrying standpoint, a handoff standpoint. But ultimately, I think that Antonio Gibson is someone where I think that the rotation needs to be consistent, like in which they had with Brian Robinson if he was around. So while Brian Robinson, you're saying he's getting, like, making up numbers here. If you're talking about Brian Robinson getting 70% of the carries, and Antonio Gibson will probably get like 35-ish, and everybody else under that, J.D. McKissick, well, it will be just those 3. And J.D. McKissick getting, I say 35-ish. My math is terrible. Hey, look, give me a restart. It's 7:30 in the morning. If Brian Robinson getting 70% of the carries, me making up numbers here, and Antonio Gibson got 20% and JD got 10. I think that this time with Brian Robinson being out, I think that Antonio Gibson should probably be getting around 50% of the carries, maybe 45. And what's his name? JD McKissick and Jonathan Williams are splitting the other number, 55. Like, they're splitting those two. So ultimately, I think it works in Washington's favor if they continue to use Antonio Gibson as an offensive weapon and specialist. I think that they need to continue developing him in that role. And if they aren't doing that, I think that they're really hurting him and their offense to a degree, and their team in that degree. So that's kind of where I'm at with Antonio Gibson. And to your point, Brian Robinson, I think that's why I'm saying I would really love to have him back as early as week 5. I think, my fingers crossed, I hope that he comes back week 5. But it's hard to predict, man. It's really hard to predict. 909 looking like an area code. Let's run up the number to 1K. Hey, no bullshit, man. We trying. We look good with our tight end group, my opinion. I agree. This might be a collection of talent we've had from the opposition group. So let me ask you all about this tight end group then. How does it work out with 4 tight ends now? Do you think that anybody's playing special teams from that unit? I think, like, who can play special teams from that unit? It will only be really John Bates, maybe, that we know of. Like, John Bates could play special teams. Matter of fact, did he play special teams last year? Let me see. I would have liked to believe that he did. John Bates. All right. What do he look like? Snap count. Where's snap count at? Yeah, he played special teams. 31%. He was 31% of the time he was on special teams. And I mean, that's really it. Logan Thomas don't play special teams. Cole Turner don't play special teams. I wouldn't imagine Cole Turner play special teams, especially with his he coming off injury. I don't think they're gonna like expose him to more work that's not offensive and where he makes his bread and butter. Armani Rogers, again, I don't know if he's gonna be playing special teams either. I think that he could, but ultimately, my point is, with those 4 tight ends, right? How do you get everybody on the field? And do you think they get everybody on the field? My answer would be no. It's going to be hard to get 4 tight ends on the field when you want to make sure your main contributors, John and Logan, are seeing majority of the touches. Like, those are the guys that you trust. They are your starters. They are the people who, like, even Logan Thomas said it in his presser when he came back. He said he wanted to make things clear. I forgot what the question was exactly. He said, I want to make things clear. I am the number 1 tight end, and everybody else is after me. So ultimately, man, I don't know how they're going to work out 4 tight ends, because I'm really a fan of Armani Rogers, but it may be the case now that he's going to have to wait his turn. And he may be inactive on game days. So especially if John Bates and Cole Turner turns out to be fine, Armani may be inactive on game days. And I understand that they didn't want to stash him, so I won't even complain about that. And hopefully they don't, subject them to waivers and release him and try to stash him on the practice squad. I really do think that this tight end group is good, and he can be a fill-in or maybe even play some snaps in red zone. But I don't think they're going to have 4 active on game day. I think they'll probably use that spot for another position, but we'll see. They'll use tight ends for jumbo formations as well. Yeah, that's 13 personnel. Maybe even 12 if you want to use another offensive lineman. But yeah, 13 personnel. You still got Logan, Cole, and John in that role. It really comes down to health, because we don't know anything. Like, these guys didn't really play in the preseason. It was really Armani Rogers, and that was it. So we don't know anything about anything. Not until Ron Rivera speaks today. He may give his first injury report for the season, which will at least give us a little light and a little understanding of what we can do or what we can see moving forward, especially that Cam Curl injury, Mike, that you spoke on earlier. Rich, my bad. Rich spoke on that. on that injury. So it'll be interesting in that regard. I think there's a conversation too, since we're still on the offense. I think that needs to be had about Carson Wentz. I know a lot of people, and at least in the chat yesterday, they really didn't agree with how Tony was talking with, his conversations about Carson Wentz and how the Jags played Carson Wentz, right? And that's understandable coming from a Commander standpoint. So let me bring up these quotes from Ron Rivera. And this is dating back to Monday now, so this is 2 days ago, but it's worth the conversation here because we're gonna talk specifically about how what Tony said kind of correlates with what Rivera is saying. In different, like the differentiation. Good Lord, God bless me. All right, so Tony yesterday said, when he played, when the Commanders quarterback Carson Wentz played the Jaguars last year on the road, he thought that Carson was terrible. And I think essentially the light in which he shed on Carson Wentz was, to hell with, whatever else was going on from a team standpoint, right? The quarterback play was bad enough that you couldn't win with that quarterback play. There was nothing else that everybody else could do or anybody else can do on that team to prevent a loss from happening if the quarterback was playing that bad. Now that's me surmising what he was saying. He said it a little bit more in detail and things like that. But I think the conversation about Wentz heading into this season and even over the last couple of days, based on the conversation around him, man, it's gonna be very interesting. Like this season, when people ask the question, do you think Carson Wentz will be here in 2023? I'm starting to think that that's the wrong question to ask. I think you need to be asking, if you're talking about long-term projection and long-term solution, I think the question needs to be asked, do you think that he'll be here in 2024? Because 2023 doesn't absolve you from the mistake. If something doesn't work out with Carson, 2023 doesn't absolve you from the mistake. You can easily keep Carson on next year because you may not have another option, or you're content with what you got. You just want to continue to build around him. But 2024 is an indicator of, all right, do I move on to Sam Howell or do I go draft a quarterback because record-wise we're in position to do so from a draft stock standpoint. But also, if he's here in 2024, that's if he's not. If he's here in 2024, that also tells you that he's had good enough seasons over the past 2 years that tells you he is a franchise quarterback still. And 2024 is probably the biggest indicator of what you can get out of a Carson Wentz. So ultimately, when you talk about the season that he had last year, and then the turmoil that he's experienced over the last 18 months, you want to know, can you trust this guy? And I think the answer ultimately right now should be, I don't know if I can trust him. It shouldn't be a yes or no. For me, it shouldn't be a yes or no. It should be, can I trust Carson Wentz, right? And that's my response. I don't know if I can trust him. And I think when people, again, and I brought up last night's conversation and how Tony felt Carson played, because he doesn't have a horse in the race with Carson Wentz in Washington. Why would he care about anything Carson Wentz does in Washington? He covers the Jaguars. He's not a fan of the team, so it seems. I don't know. Like he was a fan of Washington for over 30 years, and things changed. And he started to do his thing down in Jacksonville. But ultimately, he's not a person with an emotion tied to how he felt Carson Wentz played or how he felt the Colts played. But people, when people hear those type of things and hear those reactions about Carson Wentz from a Washington standpoint, they get upset. They come up with excuses. And I'm not saying like you're not entitled to the excuse. You can do whatever you want. But ultimately, when you hear that, and then you hear from a party in which we never ask Jaguars fans their side. We want to hear from Washington fans. We want to hate on what Washington fans say. We want to love what Washington fans say, or we want to do the same thing with Colts fans. We want to hate on what Colts fans say, or we want to love what Colts fans say in terms of it wasn't just all him, or it was a problematic issue for him throughout the season, like certain instances in which he had to come through and he didn't, or vice versa. But when you talk about from a Jags perspective, they don't have any horse in the race, and there's no reason to really go out of your way to defend a guy that you haven't seen play in Washington yet. Like if you ultimately believed in Carson Wentz before he became a Commander, then I think that's a different story, and that's where the nuance of what I'm saying, that's where it exists. If you already believed in Carson Wentz before he got here, understand that what he experienced last year, from a play standpoint, we're not talking about Jim Irsay and Frank Reich and the players, right? We're not talking about all that. We're talking about from an individual performance standpoint. If you all, take into account the season that he had and how, from a surface standpoint, he did just fine. He's getting a better opportunity here with the weapons that they have in Washington. And you've always believed that Carson was a good quarterback. Then again, kudos to you, salute to you. You continue to fight against the narrative that Carson Wentz either doesn't have it or you don't know if he does. But ultimately, I think the right answer in terms of if you trust Carson Wentz, I think the right answer is I don't know if I can trust him. I think that's the right answer, personally speaking, because there's too much volatility in this game to really sit here and say with a vote of confidence that he can get the job done in Washington. And that's gonna be a long road to get to the answer this year. Do you really believe in Carson Wentz? And has he shown you this year that you can believe in him for the future and for the long term? And that's why I'm gonna pause for a second, go through the comments right quick, and get back to what Ron Rivera had to say about Carson. Carson is set with better offensive weapons up to him to make them all shine. I believe Carson is holding back on his abilities until Sunday because the owner of the Colts. I don't think that. There's two things there. I don't think that anything that has happened to this point of the year, training camp, preseason, offseason, I don't think Carson is holding back anything like because of an owner. So if you think that he's holding back, it's probably for other reasons. If you think that he's holding back, it's definitely for other reasons. But also, if you think that he's holding back, does that mean that you don't think he was playing good enough? So I don't think that Carson is holding back on anything because of what the Colts are doing. He has a job to do in Washington, and he has to do what the coaches need him to do in Washington. So I do think that Carson is set up with better weapons, and I do think that it's on him, and I do think it's on Scott Turner to figure out a way to best utilize Carson Wentz. The unfortunate thing is we haven't seen much of anything in the preseason, so it's like we've seen some schemed up calls, but we haven't seen them connect on deep balls. There's been some inaccurate throws downfield. It's also been some forced throws and things like that, but not to a don't think I'm exacerbating it. It's probably like 2 or 3 occasions that it's happened. But the shots in which they took is what I'm talking about. So it's not like it's been a huge problem. I'm not diagnosing it as a problem. I'm just saying you need to see more of a sample size. So you haven't seen much from Scott Turner and Carson Wentz and how they've been developing. So that's that. The whole team played bad. Wentz was running for his life the whole game. Fair enough. I think that was one instance. But I also think I'm gonna go through the comments. I'm gonna circle back to that, Mike. Howling with Howell for the future. Sam Howell will be ready to take over in 2024. Carson will be here next season. And I think that's a solid prediction. Again, because 2023, again, when you talk about will he be here next year, Carson, that's not the right question to ask. Carson can easily be here next year, and whether you hate him or love him, or just in between, you got to deal with that. I think that's a really strong possibility. Carson and the Commanders are truly a match made in heaven. Two entities that need each other to get back into the good graces of football fans. That is a very solid point. They need it. The fan base needs it. The team needs it. The business side needs it. They need somebody that they can cling on to from a quarterback standpoint. Ron Rivera is entering his 3rd season on his 7th quarterback. He's entering his 3rd season on his 7th quarterback. Scott Turner is entering his 3rd season utilizing his 7th quarterback. They have no stability at the quarterback position, and they had no stability after Kirk Cousins has left. That is nerve-wracking and very frustrating. But to your point, Hawk, Washington needs Carson. Carson needs Washington. This is a situation where the business side is banking on Carson staying because they don't have anybody to keep going to. Like, who are they going to put out there? Chase Young is, I mean, we love Chase Young, but what's his projection looking like for 2022? Right? Can he come back in time and be good enough for Washington that we can trust him? I don't know. We don't know much about his injury. He's on the PUP list. When is he coming back? We don't fucking know. Who else? Terry McLaurin. That's who we got. But he's always been the face of Washington since he's been here. He's quickly made a name for himself in the community. Jonathan Allen. Like, all of these pieces except for a quarterback. Like, you always put out a guy that's not a quarterback. You have Carson Wentz. Can he stick around? And you hope to God that the marriage works. Rivera banked his future on I finish the comments right quick. With that said, last night's show was fire. The first game had me against a little because of ETN versus Washington D-line matchup. Hey man, appreciate that. Hey bro, Tony was definitely fire, bro. He had a lot of great insight. That's why I'm encouraging people. Make sure y'all watch. But we'll put up the interview as a solo, as a standalone this week as well. So just to make sure everybody has the opportunity to watch that one. But it was really good. I've seen too much bad football from us, and the roster still isn't complete. My point was he never had what he has now as far as weapons, so we should see a better him. Scott Turner, I think that's fair. We should see a better him. But I mean that's from a weapon standpoint. Like, put it this way, Scott Turner's contract extension shows me that he will be our next. Oh, that's spicy. That's spicy, Mike. That's spicy. Fire Ron, hire Scott. I don't know, man. I'd probably wait and see because Scott Turner still has to prove himself. But my thing is too with these comments, Mike, with the better weapons thing, we gotta understand too, like, yeah, he has better weapons, but ultimately, like, skill sometimes doesn't always revolve around the weapons that you do or don't have. Like, how do you make plays as a quarterback? And that's why I was going to circle back to this part right here. The whole team was bad. Mike, that's facts, right? Yeah, that's the first thing I said as I'm starting what I'm about to say. The whole team played bad. Facts. The second part, Wentz was running for his life the whole game. I think that's exaggeration. I also think that the important part when it comes to this is it wasn't just the Jacksonville game. It was the game before that. When you have opportunity to make winning plays for your team, how do you look? Do you rise above the struggles in which your team had, or do you crumble in the instance in which your team needs you? Put it this way, Carson Wentz didn't rise to the occasion, and that's the nicest way to say it, right? Carson Wentz didn't rise to the occasion, so it's what can you do from an individual standpoint? Because when your team isn't playing that good, the quarterback is expected to step up. And here's the thing that I always make comparisons to, right? Put it this way. How do you feel about Kirk Cousins? I guess time to think. Y'all talk to me. How do you feel about Kirk Cousins? Matter of fact, let me get a drink of water, and then I'm gonna circle back. All right, y'all had time to think. So listen, whether you were a fan of Kirk Cousins or not, what was the first thing that you think of when you heard these Kirk Cousins debates? Kirk threw for all these yards, but did we win? Whether you liked him or not, what was the debate about Kirk Cousins? It was always about, did we win? He was a stat stuffer. He was a guy who never really came through in the clutch. All these other excuses for Kirk Cousins in the biggest games. Think about the 2016 game against the Giants. What happened in that 2016 game against the Giants? He didn't play good. Who else didn't play good? That entire team, that defense was ass that whole night. They gave Kirk Cousins opportunities, but did he show up? No. And he threw that game-winning pick at the end when you had a chance to lead him down for either the game-tying or game-winning drive, and you threw a pick to DRC. You had 2 picks in that game in plus territory. You didn't show up. And not even that you had those turnovers, you were underwhelming the whole game from a production standpoint. He didn't show up. The Pittsburgh Steelers game, week 1, 2016, he didn't show up. 2015, I'm trying to think. I'm not even trying to look that far back, but you understand it. The 2016 game, it was a couple games in that 2016 game where you're like, he could have done more. And my point is, go back and flash back to Kirk Cousins' time in Washington. It was always about, did we win? He had all these numbers, and we gloated in the fact that Minnesota was experiencing, from a fan base standpoint, not necessarily me, but from a fan base standpoint, we gloated in the fact that Minnesota was experiencing the same thing that Washington fans were over the past couple of years, and that Kirk Cousins will give you some good numbers, but he ain't going to really shoot you with the deep ball consistently. He's not really going to win you the biggest games. He's going to come up short. He's going to throw an interception. He's going to have a turnover, and you're going to be wondering, can we win with him? All of that being said, think about the context of Kirk Cousins. We've experienced exactly what we're doing with Carson Wentz before he's even played a game in Washington. Wentz was running for his life the whole game, but he had opportunity to make play. I'm not agreeing with that. I don't agree that he was running for his life the whole game, but I am saying if that was the case, think about the times that he had opportunities to make plays. Did he make them? Did he make them? And the answer is, in the last 2 games that he played with the Raiders and then the Jaguars, he didn't rise to the occasion. So you have to look at it from an individual standpoint, right? When you look at it from an individual standpoint, you say that your point is, he has better weapons. I agree. He has better weapons. I think he has a better offensive line that can pass protect. But it's not about what's around him. It's about what's in him. Can he come through? We don't know that answer. But I will say in his last 2 games with the Indianapolis Colts, when he had opportunity, he didn't come through. That's what's most important. And you got to take it back to Kirk Cousins. That's the only way that you can really understand from a fan standpoint what it was really like to go through the situation that we're trying to evaluate with Carson Wentz. Did Kirk Cousins come through when he needed to? Yes, he's had good games. Yes, he's had good games in big moments. But what was the majority of it? He had a losing record, and he still has a losing record in primetime games. Like, it's terrible. Like, that's not a trend. That's who he is from a performance standpoint. Did he come through? The answer is no. Coach Scott can go and do his thing elsewhere, in my opinion. We don't need no Jason Garrett on our staff. Side note, Jason was dirty for how he got Wade Phillips out of there. 757, what's going on, big dog? Good morning, man. Good morning to everybody that's just checking in. Make sure you all hit that like button. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button if you are new to the Chopper Dive podcast channel. We appreciate it. We're not that far away from 1,000, but let's go ahead and keep working to get there. Kirk Cousins looking really good right now. Yes. And I think that I honestly won't be surprised if they win the division. I've even put that out there in my predictions. I would not be surprised if they win the division, man. There's a window of opportunity. I think from a team standpoint, these guys have gotten better. And I think that there's going to be a I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to be drastically better than a Mike Zimmer-led team, but I think that you'll have a little bit more fluidity on offense. And I don't know what that defense is going to look like, but I don't think you can be as bad as you were the last few years. I think there's going to be some incremental improvements. They have some pieces on that side of the ball, so it can come together. His primetime record was abysmal. Like, those are the things that they were saying. Stat stuff and empty calories. I don't know about that. I do think there's a lot of pressure on him though. I think he'll probably have a couple seasons with Kevin O'Connell. Kirk was the best QB we had in a long time, but he's a statistic type QB, great in his stats, but never will get a team to a Super Bowl. That's what people were saying. That's what people were saying. Dalvin Cook was utilized a lot more when Kirk became the first guaranteed man. Always said, even on Red T Show, Kirk equals poor man's Dan Marino. T. Roy didn't get to take the lead. The lead score late in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left in the red. All right, yep. Receivers has to get open when your QB is in trouble. Dak has that, and the Chiefs QB has that. Pat Mahomes. I'm telling you, bruh. I'm telling you, it's gonna be close this year. I swear. I think it's gonna be close, bruh. He does own the division, but guess what? Hey, week 1, Packers and Vikings, bruh. I can't wait. Look, I can't wait till tomorrow. I'm skipping. I can't even skip over tomorrow's game, bro. That's gonna be a hell of a game. I can't wait till Sunday. We got 14 games Sunday, bro. We got 14 games Sunday. But yeah, again, like I agree. Where was the other point at, Mike? Because this is a good conversation. Receivers have to get open when your QB is in trouble. Dak has that, and the QB Chiefs have that. I mean, sure, but what about when the play is there to be made from a quarterback standpoint, and you have receivers running wide open? Like that comment about Carson Wentz having to take the layup, that's a real thing. Layups exist. Layups were there. So that's why I want to present the balance too. Like I understand that I'm taking the negative side of the argument. I just want to make sure that, again, remember what was my original point. And Mike, like I said, I'm not like picking on you. I'm just enjoying the conversation that we have. I think the bottom line is that for me, again, when you talk about do you trust Carson Wentz, I think the right answer should be I don't know. It shouldn't be yes. It shouldn't even be no. It should be I don't know. I think that's the right answer here. I don't think there's a yes or no. I think it's I don't know. Nah, no bull. Nah, that boy was savage. Scored the rushing touchdown, put on the belt, told them boys, I own you, bruh. Told them boys, I own you. And appreciate you checking in, T-Roy. My bad. I saw your comment, but didn't speak to you, man. Good morning, big dog. Okay, so here's what Ron said about Carson as well, and I'm gonna end it with this one. I got some things to take care of on my side, so I want to make sure. Hey, for sure, I want to see what Russ do with the Broncos. I'm glad that they're doing that Monday night, Broncos Seahawks. But overall, I do want to see how that division is gonna play out. Like the AFC West, bro. Hey, the Raiders, bro. Everybody is stacked. Everybody. Like if you come in fourth place in that division, you probably still won 8 or 9 games. That's how stacked they are. It's fucking crazy. All right, so let's go ahead and end this with the Ron Rivera part. And the reason why I brought up Carson Wentz altogether. And again, it is what it is, right? Like, hey, everybody ain't meant to agree with everything that people say. But here we go. So this is the quote that I want to speak on, and then I'll end it with that one. So on if things feel different with Carson Wentz at quarterback, he said the following. Well, I think we have a quarterback. I do. I think we have a guy that can help us. I mean, not to say we didn't have some quality quarterbacks. Again, we did some pretty good things when we had Alex Smith playing for us. I thought that was a great job by him. And again, I thought last year Taylor did the things he needed to do to help us. But I think we have a guy now establish and rally around and build off of, which is what we tried to do in the offseason. As far as making sure we had a stout offensive line to protect them, and then the playmakers. And again, I always refer to that because I think that's what you have to do. Now, in our circumstances, in our situation, I think that we have a guy that, we can establish and build around. Baltimore will win the Super Bowl this season. Ooh, I think the Bills got it. Okay, so Mike said Baltimore. What about you all? Hawk 757. Hey, next show gonna be Friday. We here, man. We definitely here. So here's the last thing that I'll say with this one is that take everything in the context about what we just said about Carson Wentz, the good and the bad. What Mike presented about how his season last year was not necessarily all on him, particularly the last game that you spoke on, the Jacksonville game. But take everything in the context about trusting him, how he played last year, some of the issues that he had last year, some of the good things that he has for him in Washington. I don't have a problem with Ron Rivera saying anything that he said in that comment that I just shared with you all, right? You can say a lot about Carson Wentz in your pressure that's positive. I think that you're building him up. You're showing that bold of confidence. You're continuing to show that confidence, right? That you have in him from a public standpoint. I think that's perfectly fine. I think where things start getting murky is the last sentence in which he's talked about, right? Here it goes. He said, in our circumstances, in our situation, I think we have a guy that we can establish and build around. The hesitancy that I have in that is Rivera is on his 7th quarterback in 3 years. His 7th quarterback in 3 years. Regardless of the circumstances, he's on his 7th quarterback in 3 years. We know what's happened to Alex Smith, but Dwayne Haskins started that season. And then Kyle Allen got hurt. But you went from Dwayne Haskins to one quarterback to another quarterback, and then that quarterback got hurt, and then you went to Alex Smith. And then the season continues. You go to Taylor Heineke eventually, Ryan Fitzpatrick eventually, back to Taylor Heineke, then Garrett Gilbert and Kyle Allen as well. And now you're on Carson Wentz. When you're on your 7th quarterback in 3 seasons, I think in a traditional situation, organization that's not going through what Ron Rivera and staff is going through, I think any other head coach that's on his 7th quarterback in 3 seasons should probably have the awareness that I need to be careful banking on such a controversial guy before a game is even played. Whether it's for better or for worse, you can have all the confidence in the world in Carson Wentz. I think that one of the easier things to say in a situation on if he feels different with Carson Wentz at quarterback, one of the easiest things to say is, I like what we're doing. I like what Carson Wentz has brought to the table so far, but now we have to prove it on the field. Now we have to show you all exactly what I've seen in Carson Wentz over this offseason, over these practices, over these training camp days. I can't wait to show you all. Not, I think we have a guy that we can establish and build around. Because what if this guy that you banked on, you took on his entire 2022 salary, made it paying him $28 million for 1 year. You drastically altered your offseason plans because the money that you gave him, you had to make some roster moves that you probably didn't anticipate prior to trading him. You wasn't able to fully build up your team from a free agency standpoint. You only signed 2 guys. Trey Turner, Andrew Norwell, F.A. Obata, 2. 3 guys. That's it. That's all you signed. And I think the thing is, when you say things Why he said, he think he has a guy that you can establish and build around. Why you say things like that? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just saying, I wouldn't be so quick to stake your claim on a Carson Wentz guy, a person that that you're betting on, a person that has to come through just as much as you have to come through, Ron Rivera. Because ultimately, while optimism exists, and I said that I think that I'm taking the over. I think it's going to be, we're going to win at least 8 games. Washington will. I think that Washington's ceiling is 11 wins. I think that they can reach 10. I think that they personally can reach 10. I'm saying all these things, right? I'm just saying we've seen this time and time again where coaches, and Ron Rivera has done this before, has put his foot in his mouth before a game has been played. Last year, he told the fans in the practice, the August practice at FedEx Field, we need you all this year. We're going to bring it on the field. We need you all. All this offseason promotion about the defense, how great the defense is going to be. All this promotion about, things are turning and all these things for the better, right? And you go out and draw a dud, and immediately after you draw a dud, from a performance standpoint, you start losing your fans that you worked from a offseason standpoint to build. And they're doing it again this year, rightfully so. You have to promo. Like, I'm not saying anything like that. You have to promo. You have to get ready. You have to get people ready for the start of the season. That's your job, and you're doing a good job at it. But listen, you are doing all this with a new quarterback. You are claiming from a public standpoint that this is a guy that you can establish and build around. Show it on the field. You don't have to say that. You don't have to say that this is a guy that you can build around, because it's looking long term. That's what it sounds like. It sounds long term. And when situations don't work out in which you plan from a public standpoint, people are going to go back to the instance in which you said certain things and why we feel like you miscalculated or made missteps from that situation. So I just think that from a Ron Rivera standpoint, I think it's perfectly okay to place confidence in your quarterback, but I think it's perfectly reasonable, and I think you should have some awareness to understand that you have to show it on the field first. You have to show it on the field. You have to make sure that we understand that you want to see performance on the field before you say something like, we can build around him, and you haven't even played a game yet. That's all I'm saying. And that's where I'm at with that quote in itself. It can get dangerous personally. And I think for a head coach that's on his 7th quarterback in 3 seasons, you should have a little bit more awareness than that personally. So I predict whomever wins between the AFC North and AFC West win the Super Bowl this year. Carson has a better offensive line too. RP Haskins for the show. RP Lil Bruh, Dwayne Haskins. Coach Ron got to say that because he got to try and hide his decision mistakes at quarterback. And Terry did say Carson Wentz was a big reason why he re-signed. That's good. Yeah, Haskins is going to take the RP. Marla's Romo on word to yo. Bro. Hey, bro. That's our quarterback. Oh, my God. 757. Hey, bro. Carson Wentz will shock all his doubters. Hey, so what's y'all? All right, so let me get out of here with this. What's y'all predictions? I'm a hold tight. Let's hear it. What's y'all predictions for Carson Wentz? I'm taking this season game by game. I won't be disappointed and drunk every Sunday behind Ron and company. It's tough to get fans in that stadium after losing the beer sponsorship. Hey, 757 is hilarious. He said Ron Rivera under hella pressure. All of the home fans will be watching inherently or intently without the alcohol. Nah, hey, so season projections for Carson Wentz, I can see him going over. I can see him reaching like close to 4,000 yards in this offense. I can see 25 plus touchdowns. I mean 30 isn't an unreasonable number, honestly. And I think 30 may be far-fetched in his offense. Like 30 plus, right? I think you can tap 30, the actual number 30, but outside of that, like it's hard to really see that with an offense with Scott Turner, right? Because you just don't know. I don't think 30 is far-fetched in today's NFL is what I meant to say. But with Scott Turner, you just don't know how effective this offense can be. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm just saying you never really seen him with a full group and a strong quarterback to the likes of Carson Wentz. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I can see 4,000 yards. I can see 25 plus touchdowns. I can also see a quarterback who throws double-digit interceptions and take quite a number of sacks that's unnecessary. So ultimately, I can see, I can even see like 60, 64, 65% completion. That's really not a bad season statistically. You know, I can see 25 plus touchdowns, 10 plus interceptions, like around 10 to 13 interceptions. I can see 65% completion. See all that. 9 wins at least, 10 wins at the most. I kind of got us losing week 1. Overall, I think we missed the playoffs 9-8. Coach Rivera gets the boot. Back to your point though, you said that Rivera is under hella pressure. All of the home fans would be watching intently. Look, yeah, Rivera is under pressure. And you know, we asked that question yesterday. Do you think that Washington can survive a 1-1 start? And realistically, of course you can survive a 1-1 start. But the perception is the Jaguars and the Lions ain't good enough to beat us. So what happens if you lose one of those games? Ultimately, you want to get off to a 2-0 start. That's important. But Rivera, you can't start slow under. If you're Rivera, you can't start slow again. Like 3 straight years with the slow start is ass. He went 2 straight years where he had a 2-5 start. Matter of fact, let me just double check just to make sure. I think it was 2-5 in particular. 2-6 in 2021, and I want to say it's probably 2-6. Yeah, 2-6 in 2020. As low as 2-7. You can't have those slow starts if you're Ron Rivera again. You can't afford to go. 5-5 is good. I mean, considering where we were, 3-3, okay. But you can't start off like 1-3, 1-4, 2-4, 2-3, 2-5, 3-5, 3-6. Those slow starts don't mean nothing because those slow starts are significant because what you do in the back end don't mean nothing. Like if you start off 3-6, 3-7, or 4-6, 4-7, and you're talking about a strong push in December. Like, do you know how much better your team would be if you can consistently be good throughout the season? And that all goes back to offseason preparation, I believe. Like, how ready were they for this regular season? Did they do enough in training camp and preseason to really prepare themselves for the first half of the season, the first quarter of the season? Ron Rivera is under hella pressure. And I think it's more so self-pressure that he put on himself, but ultimately, from a fan base perspective, from a fan base opinion of Ron Rivera, he's under pressure. I don't think it means much from an owner standpoint, but I do think you'll probably start to lose the ear of the fans once you continue to start off slow, once you continue to show, if you continue, not once, because I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't want to give the perception that I think is going to happen, but you can't allow that to happen 3 years in a row and think that the fan base is going to be around. Like, the business side is all in, man. They're doing their part. But what about the team? What about the actual players? What about the coaches? Are they doing their job? And that ultimately is where Ron Rivera comes in. Hey, he said you ain't saving Ron, especially with what our QB went against last season. Carson should shine with more wins against teams we go against this year. Tired of losing. I'm cutting the cord if I can. If you listen to Ron's pressure, he feels the pressure. I can hear it in his voice. He got hella fans that will be sobered during the games now. I can dig it. At least the food and beer take some attention away from the game. First off, you talking about beer, you need to get that alcohol on deck, shouty. Need to get that alcohol on deck, man. Where y'all cut water at? Get that cut water. Get that Long Island cut water, bruh. But listen, let me go and get up out of here, bro. I got some things to take care of on my side. I got some work to do. Appreciate everybody who tapped in right now. The fellas will be back tomorrow with the Jaguars and Washington preview. I'll be back again as well tomorrow, and obviously Commanders Morning Show on Friday. The All 32 side of Chopper Dive is releasing tonight. So be on the lookout for that one. And then I know I've done the film sessions. I'll say it on this morning show and probably say it at another date as well. The film sessions I've been doing throughout the off season, they will continue to happen. Things get busy and it's hard to really, like when you're doing film for written work, it's kind of hard to put everything for YouTube as well. So we're going to go ahead and carve out the time when the regular season starts. Probably like do a niche, whatever the word is, thing, like maybe like a player who played well, or like put a spotlight on a player who played well, or what went wrong exactly in the game, like a trend type of thing, versus like a full hour length breakdown. But also that's what the Commanders morning show could be for. I can maybe do like a day in which we dedicate to the film, do a film session, and that can be easier too, because I don't have to like do a recorded session and do cut pieces and put together the clips like that. So we'll figure that thing out, but the film sessions will be here. I know a lot of people tapped in because of the film sessions. They haven't gone anywhere, still around. Okay. Oh, and also, so next Friday, or this Friday, definitely for sure, we'll have the link open as well for everybody else that wants to join in and give their predictions and talk some Commanders football. Y'all come to Orlando. I got the best moonshine you can ever sip on, 200 proof. Boy, my dread's finna fall off. 200 proof, bruh. Oh my God. Hey, listen, man, I'm out of here. Hey, appreciate everybody who joined the chat. Appreciate everybody who tapped in, man, for the hour Commanders morning show. Y'all boys be safe. Y'all ladies be safe. Y'all watching. We need to get that win Sunday. Let's go, Commanders. Start early, score, be on this flow. Irvin, check in Friday, man. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your predictions. I want to hear your keys to a Commanders victory on Friday morning. Yes, sir. Hey, appreciate you, big dog. And yeah, y'all be safe, man. All right, we out of here. Enjoy y'all day, man. Get back to work. Get back to work. All right, boom.